So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Rita Mystery. It's really good to be here. I can see some familiar faces, I can see some new faces. A little bit about me and my background for those of you that don't know me. I started life as an accountant. I was on your side of the fence and I was an administrator using SunSystems for a very well-known charity who are still using SunSystems. And I think that is one of the key things that I think brings us all together. There are some long-standing SunSystems users, and Infor do appreciate our long-standing customers, because I think it's quite obvious around the room that some of you have just moved from job to job to job and carried on using Sun. So thank you from Infor. My session today, now I'm not only did you set me up for failure, Andrew, I'm also 10 minutes late and standing between you and lunch. So someone's going to give me that sign when I'm ready to stop, to tell me to stop. Like Tarek, I can talk. So I will try and be as quick as I can. The idea of my first session, so I do have another session later on this afternoon, which I hope you'll all still be here for, is really just to give you a taster of SunSystems Cloud and how Infor OS, so Infor Operating Services, and I'll explain that in a bit more detail because we are really good with our acronyms and we've got to stop doing that, but really just explain the business benefits that can bring. So we've gone through a little bit of not a rebranding exercise, but at the end of the day, as Tarek mentioned earlier on, SunSystems has been around for more than 40 years. And I don't think I've been using it for 40 years, but it's not far off actually. So if I think back to when I first started using it, I think version 3 point something. So that's now starting to show my age. But what a lot of people don't perhaps understand is historically when you, as an organisation, review SunSystems, you pick and choose the modules that you want. The key thing to bear in mind is that when you move to the cloud, if you decide to move to cloud, and please remember that we're not standing here telling you have to move to the cloud. It is really up to you to decide as and when it's appropriate for you to use. Yes, there's lots of good reasons to move to the cloud, but there's also lots of good reasons to stay on premise. And my session later on this afternoon is just to remind you of some of the things that you can have if you are on premise. But one of the things to bear in mind is that if you do decide to move to SunSystems Cloud, by default, you get all the SunSystems functionality. So whether you choose to configure it or not, you will have this functionality. And it's not something, there's a lot of functionality there. You may choose to configure it, as and when you need to, not necessarily all in one go, but just remember that everything I'm going to talk about today is available to you to use in the cloud if you decide to move. So we talk about three core parts to SunSystems really, which is record to report. So mostly this is the area where, we set our analysis codes, we GL codes, we've got lots of reports we can generate off of the back of that. But there is also procure to pay functionality, order to cash functionality, and we can talk about that in a lot more detail, and please come and find me if you have any questions. But Infor OS, or Infor Operating Services, is, I call it the technology layer that sits around all of our solutions. So really it's your portal entry into your Infor applications, and it's a web UI. So for those of you that are used to that desktop look and feel, it's going to push you away from that. And I understand that some people get very attached to their desktops, their keyboards, and don't want to use their mouse so much. And, unfortunately, that is just a sign of the times that we are moving away from certain things that we are used to. So you're going to move away to a web UI of SunSystems, and you are going to be provided with some key functionalities such as the ability to approve transactions, new records, the ability to have embedded document management, some of the things that Tarek was showing earlier on. And I'll try and show you a little bit of that as we walk through. But just to remind you some of the key things, and I'm not going to, hopefully I'm not preaching to the converted, but SunSystems has always been very strong in its analysis structure. And that is really key to remember, because it doesn't matter how long you've been using Sun, if you get your accounting structure right, and by accounting structure I mean your nominal codes and your analysis codes, everything will be plain sailing out of that. Your reports will work beautifully, your integrations will work great, but there is a lot of analysis available in Sun. So please don't ever forget that it's not just about ledger transaction analysis codes. There are static analysis codes that live within the solution as well. Currency has always been very strong as well. So for those We won't single out you version 4 users, but version 4 users wouldn't have the flexibility that SunSystems now offers. So there is lots of functionality available around currency. So the ability to store a transaction in Hong Kong dollars because you've received an invoice in Hong Kong dollars, but you need to translate to sterling because that's your base currency. You need to translate to dollars because that's a parent company. You've also got another affiliation that's asking you to report in euros. That's all possible within SunSystems' current version. So it is important to remember that SunSystems has always been very strong in currency. You may not be configured to use all the currency, but that is something to bear in mind. Certainly if you are a multi-jurisdiction organisation where you've got branches or entities in different countries that have local reporting requirements as well as group reporting requirements. And this goes a long way to deal with that. Q&A. So Q&A, I think hopefully you're all familiar with. But as Tarek mentioned earlier on, if you are on Q&A 10 and perhaps are used to using something like Executive. So Executive is no more, unfortunately. And in Q&A 11 and Q&A Cloud, we are using Excel as our presentation layer. Like it or hate it, we're accountants, we love Excel. And as Tarek said, we could spend millions in building these wonderful Power BI dashboards. And at the end of the day, the end user is going to go, I want to export to Excel. So we love it, we hate it, it's a necessary evil. But you know, the beauty of Q&A is it's real-time reporting. It's embedded within Excel. And you can now drill down and break out. So I can pick a number on a spreadsheet and drill down to my heart's content. And you can also use it for uploading. Hopefully you're all using Q&A templates to upload your transactions to the ledgers. And just to touch on, I will share these slides, but there is a full P2B process and there's a full order to cash process as well. And Tarek mentioned RI, so recurring invoicing, which was a third-party solution that Infor brought a few years ago, and that's now embedded within our solution. And what RI brings is the ability to create a sales contract and then have the ability to automatically release your invoices as and when they are due. You may have a maintenance invoice that you want to invoice every quarter for £3,000. You may want to automatically post your deferred revenue posting. So now you can do that all inherently within the solution. So all of that is included if you decide to move to the cloud. Most of that is available on premise, and I'll caveat that with the Infor OS piece, but most of that is available on premise, but you end up picking and choosing by way of saying, I want to buy that module, So on that note, I am now going to move into the world of demonstrations where we hope things will go plain sailing. So let me for security reasons, I can't log in and stay logged in because it'll just kick me out. So that's one of those things with being in the cloud world. But what I want to do, first of all, is introduce you to Infor OS. So for those of you, told you, Andrew. Let's start again. Bingo. Right, so for those of you that have not seen or understand Infor OS is your portal. It's, however you decide to use it, it's your entry level into SunSystems. And when you log into this, it's a URL. When you log into SunSystems, you are going to be presented with a workspace. And you can have lots of different types of workspaces. I'm just going to jump through some examples here. Some of those workspaces are BI driven. So this is an example of an EPM, Enterprise Performance Management BI dashboard. It's pulling data, so it's taking advantage of the fact that we can now automatically have an end-to-end cloud interface from SunSystems Cloud going through the data lake directly into EPM for budgeting planning purposes. But for purposes of today, I've created, not me personally, the royal we, created a nice little dashboard that I can show you that's just giving you some high-level information. It could be a director of finance and wants to look at that top-level information and then just say, right, that's it, I'm done, I don't need to do anything else. A workspace can also be made up of an actual report. So in this example, I've got an EPM report. Now, this EPM report is, again, designed pulling data directly from SunSystems. It's using A codes to pull that column of information for my grouping. So for those of you, and again, I don't want to preach to the converted, but I've spoken to so many customers over the years that still don't use A codes. So A codes are a way of grouping your nominal codes and will make your reports run very efficiently. So if you are not using A codes, please review that because you should be. And A codes are a way of, in this example, I've just got an IFRS structure. It's given me my usual actual versus budgets. I've got some filters on the left-hand side, but more importantly, I've got the ability to drill down. So I may want to drill down by cost center, project, whatever it may be, by entity. It's given me that grouping. In this example, it's just a hierarchy I can drill through. I can carry on drilling through, but maybe at a top level, this is all a senior executive wants to see. Another example of a workspace is made up of slightly more different bits of information. Now, these boxes here are called widgets. They're mostly out of the box. The top left-hand one is an EPM widget. Right, EPM's done. So let's start talking about Infor OS. On the right-hand side, I have some alerts. So what Infor OS does, it has a workflow engine. Now, as workflows suggest, workflows will allow you to approve new records, new transactions. You know, I want to approve a journal, I want to approve a purchase invoice, whatever it may be. What it can also do is alert you of things that are happening. So, I mean, I don't know with Ben's presentation earlier on whether we want to know what's happening, but in the world of business, my alerts are just, you know, I've got some simple alerts there. It's just popping up with a message that's telling me an account's been closed. But some examples of how you might want to use alerts is you may want to keep an eye on, I don't know, a sensitive balance sheet account. And if somebody posts a journal, which is over £100,000, perhaps you just want to be notified. Maybe it's a bank account that you want to keep an eye on the balance, and you might want to know if there's a hefty, you know, amount of money going into it. It could just be you're monitoring a particular supplier and just want to know if purchase invoices are posted against that supplier, which is greater than a certain amount. Or maybe you want to look at a period movement between on a particular account from period 1 to period 2. Again, there are there's lots of information that you can build into these monitors, and all it is just an FYI. If you imagine, you know, your LinkedIn feeds, your Facebook feeds, they are just presenting information to you that is showing you something you may have had an interest in, and that's all this is doing. The example I use is that when I was an accountant, my biggest bugbear, and I apologise if you've already heard me say this because I think I say this every single time I'm presenting, my biggest bugbear was people posted, my team posting to the 999 suspense account during the month because they just couldn't be bothered to work out where it should be coded to. And then the only time I'd find that out is at month end when I've got 1,000,001 things to do already, and all of a sudden I see a whopping balance sitting there thinking, oh, now I've got to go through that and recode it to where it needs to go. You could have a really simple alert that during the month, and there's always going to be a good reason why people post to the 999 suspense account. It is there for a reason. But what you could do is just have an alert that says, oh, Tarek's posted a journal to the 999 suspense account. I can then message him in Teams going, why couldn't you be bothered to just code it where it's supposed to go? But, you know, if that is a valid reason, he gives me a valid reason, I can then do something about it. Or I can say, actually, it should have been coded here, post a journal and get it approved. So it takes away some of that month-end angst that we all have experienced as accountants. But that's just an example. It's really limited by your imagination, I would say. Bookmarks. So bookmarks can be just to a record in SunSystems. As you can see there, I've got some bookmarks to SunSystems. I've also got a bookmark to the report that I had on the previous workspace, as well as the next workspace I'm about to show you, which is approval. So bookmarks can just help you navigate. So let's understand that what our solution is bringing to you is an easy way to navigate between various functions, various screens, various bits of information that you may want to have access to. In the middle, I've got two widgets. Now that's introducing document management. So embedded within Infor OS is document management. And again, we always talk, the common example we talk about there is supplier invoices. I've got supplier contracts as well there. What I can do from here is let's just click on any of these, and I've opened up a supplier invoice. There's my mock invoice that I've uploaded, and we'll talk about attaching that in just a few seconds. But I just want to talk about document management in a bit more detail. So when you upload documents into document management, you have a list of properties here. Those are all system properties, so things like version control, who uploaded it, who amended it. I mean, that's a simple PDF, it's a purchase invoice, it's a common example, but there's no real limitations to kind of documents you can upload. The key thing for you to understand is the attributes. So there I've got two attributes. These are user-definable. You can have as many or as few as you like. And first of all, these act as they serve two purposes. They give you a soft link to the record in SunSystems. So I'm now just looking at a document in document management, but if I open up, and I'll show you this in a few minutes, if I open up, do an account inquiry, the screenshot that Tarek had earlier on, if you can remember, I can open up my right-hand side pane, and it will show me the relevant invoice that relates to that transaction. And it's doing that link by way of these soft links here. You can also use those soft links as a way of looking for documents. So for example, I want to say, well, actually, I want to look at all my purchase invoices with a business unit code of, and just search, So, or I want to look for all purchase invoices for a particular supplier, if that's what your attribute is. Or what I can also do is a free text search. So for example, I'm just going to type in, no, I can't type. I'm just going to type in training as a free text search. No, that didn't work. Oh, okay, so I did a quick search for SunSystems, and it'll just come up with two documents. So what this will do, these were just back-in documents from my journals, but what the free text search will do is, for example, if you've got, that you had some SunSystems training, you can't remember which partner gave it to you, you can't remember when it was, you just want to look at all the training invoices that you've had, you can just do a free text search, and it would just do a quick search on the PDF content and give you all those documents there. So that didn't quite work as I was expecting it to, but not to worry, I'll come back to that later on. The other workspace I want to show you was the approvals. So very simply, if you are going to use SunSystems Cloud and Infor OS for approvals, you can define approvals for the purchase process, from a requisition to purchase order to a purchase invoice. You can approve journals that get uploaded to the ledgers. It could be a data center and Q&A. You could approve the onboarding of a new supplier. And what I've done here is I've just got a couple of examples. I've grouped them. So rather than see one long list of all my approvals, I am looking at my requisitions that need approving. And I've got my supporting documents that were loaded at the time of requisitioning. And I've got some invoices to approve as well. But what you can do is, if I click on any of these tasks and just that little fork there, to the right of that, that is now I've paired this with what we call the workflow viewer. So this is the graphical user interface that you will see when you're defining your workflows. And this is really a good way for you to be able to perhaps just see where an approval is. So for example, I can see I've got 2 outstanding approvals for my requisitions, and I can just open it up and I can see it's been assigned to me and I'm still not doing anything about it. So maybe I'm unexpectedly out of the office. It's just a good way of seeing where the bottlenecks are. And as an administrator, as a manager, you can reassign that if you know I'm going to be out of the business for an indefinite period of time. So that was approvals. There are some other, just the other thing to mention is that I've chosen to pin my workspaces along the top. It just gives me the ability to jump through the ones that are relevant to me, my roles, my responsibilities. Those were just some examples of workspaces. You wouldn't ordinarily have access to all of those, but they can be defined to show and present information to you based on your roles and responsibilities. You can also access them from the left-hand side menu, and I can also just open up SunSystems Cloud. So I've just added SunSystems Cloud to a workspace to make it easier for me to open. And this will now open up SunSystems, the web UI. Maybe some of you are already familiar with this look and feel. There are some shortcuts on here. I do have a left-hand side menu that navigates me through all the various modules that are available within SunSystems and functionality. Bear in mind, I'm logged in as a user that can do absolutely everything. In reality, you would only see the functions that you have access to. I typically tend to navigate through that free text search. So for example, let's just open up the supplier window to see the setup of my suppliers. And what I want to do is quickly look for Dell. So we've also added, for those of you who are not familiar, we've also added wildcard searches forms into SunSystems. Now this is available to you in the cloud and on 6.4 on-premise. And I literally can just do a quick search for my Dell supplier. I've got several Dell suppliers, and Dell UK is a supplier that I'm interested in, so I can just open that up. And I can see all the setup information around Dell. But what, first of all, is important is now introducing the right-hand side pane. So very quickly, I can open up the Smart Help. So this is in-context help to do with this function. So if I opened up a payment run, I would see the payment run help. If I opened up chart of accounts, I'd see chart of accounts help. So this is bringing you in-context information, online help. So that online help is publicly available anyway. It's, if you're not familiar with it, it's docs.infor.com. And we can share those links with you later on as well. But this is in context. What you also have and will have, and you'll start to see, is related knowledge base articles. So we've just recently moved to ServiceNow. So as and when we start tagging knowledge base articles with this version of SunSystems, they will automatically appear there. So if there's a known challenge, I don't like to say the word issue or problem, but if there's a known challenge with a function, that will then appear as a KB article. You click on it, it'll take you into Concierge and you can open it up. You can also have your own documentation. So here, you can store your training manuals, your training guides within document management, and that will open up there automatically against that particular function. So that's just some online help there. But from a IDM perspective and related information perspective, Tarek was showing some examples earlier on about open POs, open AP invoices. Yes, I could add those widgets on the right-hand side, but I can also have an IDM related context on the right-hand side. And this particular example is just showing me some supply-related documentation that lives with that record. So I've got, if you like, a small contract management type solution where I can store supply-related documents against supplier, customer-related documents against suppliers, etc. The attributes here for this document type are slightly different. I have a few more. I've got some pertinent dates there. I've got some start-end dates there. And what that allows me to do is, if I wanted to, I could set up an alert. So I'd have a monitor that says, as and when the contract review date arrives, email the purchasing manager, notify the purchasing manager and let them know that the terms and conditions for this particular supplier need to be reviewed. So those are some simple examples there of how you can use document management. Coming back into SunSystems, just a couple more things I wanted to show you. If I just quickly do an account inquiry and show you some of those screens that Tarek had earlier on. And I won't do a quick search, I'll just type in my Dell supplier again. And I just want to look at, there you go, a couple of months worth of open transactions. So this inquiry is just showing me open AP invoices for a particular supplier, and there's lots of ways of how you can present information in SunSystems. But this time, if I open up the right-hand side pane, it's going to refresh and show me the invoice that was related to that particular transaction. And as I step through and scroll through each transaction line, the image on the right will refresh. Remember, it's those soft attributes that are stored with the document that will live with that document that allow you to create that link automatically with SunSystems records. If I wanted to attach an additional document here, I have got the ability to do a quick add file. It will automatically populate those attributes for me based on the information on that form. And last couple of things I want to show you, as I know I'm stopping you from going to lunch, is the most common example that I get asked is journal approvals. So if I just do a quick journal inquiry, I've got a journal that I've already posted. I think it's journal number 45. So here is a really simple 5-line, it's an accruals journal that I posted. And what people say to me is, well, I want to see the back-end documentation. You know, it may just be a 2-line journal, maybe there's an elaborate Excel worksheet that's sitting behind that 2-line journal. And again, what you can do is always have supporting documents against your journals. And in this particular example, if I just open it up, this just happens to be a Q&A data send that shows me there you go. That's the data send that I used to create that journal. And if you haven't seen Q&A 11 or Q&A Cloud in action, you no longer have to do a journal import, ledger import once you created that data send. It just posts it for you straight away and it gives you a journal number. So there's the journal number message coming back. So it is very easy. It is quite straightforward to set up, but it is very common, not only for people that are doing journal inquiries to be able to see the back-end documentation, but also if you were ultimately submitting this for approval, when you click on the approval tasks, you will always have the ability to drill back to the documentation held in IDM, so to see that information. And then the last couple of things I just wanted to quickly show you is just some example Q&A reports. So as I said, we've got this is just how we've defined the new report pack that you can have within Q&A. And if you've not seen it, you've got the ability to drill down on this information. So I can select a number and do a quick summary drill down and select what it is that I want to drill down by. And it may be that Q&A has kicked me out, but oh no, there you go. And hopefully that's a screen that you're familiar with. And very simply, let's just say I want to drill down by period. And it'll just open up another tab for me and drill down by period. So it gives you the ability to drill down in real time. So there's always going to be a place for the Power BIs and all those data warehousing reporting tools, but they're going to be as near real time as possible. For an end user, someone in finance, they typically want to be able to run those reports in real time and drill down in real time. So that's what Q&A brings to the table. So a couple of things on this and then I will stop talking. Q&A 11, Q&A Cloud, it is still desktop Excel, so you're still using desktop Excel as your presentation layer, but it's using web services to connect to the cloud to bring that information back to your desktop. So it is it's a far more efficient way of pulling that data back. And in the interest of time, I had already run this other report. So here, when you pick up your reports, you also have the option to break out. And so what breakout does is it gives you the option to say, well, I want to see my P&L report or my income and expenditure report, and I now want to break out by cost center, by project, whatever you're using your analysis codes for. I've already run it. So what that does is it will give you one report in the exact same format that you've got your report in for all your different analysis codes that you've selected. In this example, it's cost center. So I think I'm run out of time. Nobody was giving me that sign from back there, so I'm quite grateful for that. Thank you very much. If anybody does have any questions for me, I am around. I'm here all day. Please come and grab me, come and ask me a question. And I think you are free for lunch now, which I'm sure you're all waiting for.